On Media and Society this week, we zoom into a very concerning and growing global trend of online harassment and violence against women journalists. We get views from a top South African journalist and a veteran Kenyan broadcaster on the challenges that female journalists are facing online. We ask the question, should the abuse of female journalists be something society takes more seriously? Call in as we discuss this burning issue. And coming up, one of our regular features to look forward to, the Game Changer. Hello and welcome to Media and Society on the SABC News Channel, independent and impartial. This, of course, is where we give you the opportunity to probe the relationship between the public and the media and all of its different facets. I'm Peter Ndoro, standing in for Rams Mabote. Now, you can connect with us via social media channels and share your views and concerns about how the media works and exactly what we feed you as the media. And you can use the hashtag SABC Media and Society. And you can also call us on the Johannesburg number 011-714-6841 or 6842. That number again, Johannesburg 011-714-6841 or 6842. We really look forward to listening to you as we discuss this important issue. Now, female journalists across the world are under unprecedented levels of attack. This is the grim and chilling reality revealed in a United Nations Cultural Agency UNESCO report that says that nearly 3/4 of those surveyed in 125 countries had experienced online hostility of some sort, and 1/4 of them had been threatened with sexual violence and even death. Other abuses included the releasing of personal details on the internet, finances being hacked, and families and friends as well as colleagues being harassed. Sadly, vicious online media attacks on female journalists is happening all too often right here in South Africa. And someone who can talk to us a little bit about that is specialist legal journalist as well as author Karyn Maughan. She joins us now on the line. Karyn, thanks very much indeed for joining us, and welcome to the program.
Well, thanks for having me.
All right, so this UNESCO report paints a pretty grim picture. 73% of respondents in 125 countries say that they've experienced some kind of cyber attack, some kind of cyberbullying at one point or another. This is something that you've experienced.
Unfortunately, yes, and I don't think I'm in the minority of my colleagues. I think a lot of women just generally, and this is a proven dimension of online behavior, are subjected to disproportionate levels of online violence, stalking, harassment, abuse, and I think that it's definitely something that has taken hold very deeply in the South African online environment, perhaps as a consequence of that global trend or, our particular kind of brand of misogyny and abuse. I think some of the hardest things for me have been that people, in one instance, someone, tweeted at my younger sister on New Year's Day that he had killed me and then proceeded to go into a great detailed description of the firearm that he used, the gun, the bullet, and the fact that she mustn't worry because it was like I just went to sleep. And that was the first day of New Year. I've had people say that myself and Professor Julie Malinsela must be raped and necklaced. Most recently, when I had COVID-19, there were a lot of people who were openly wishing for me to die. And one person in particular saying that I must burn in hell with Karyn Brown, the late Karyn Brown, who is, a colleague of ours who very tragically succumbed to COVID-19, after a protracted stay in hospital. And obviously with deep pain and grief for everyone who knew her and her family members. So unfortunately, it is a feature of my life, and it's one of those things that, you almost have to tragically accept as a dimension of having a form of public profile in South Africa and being a woman. I mean, that being said, the men and the male journalists, and I think you yourself have dealt with forms of this, do get subjected to really horrific online abuse, xenophobia, hostility, and really hateful stuff. And it's just a deeply, deeply problematic aspect of our online environment at the moment.
The UNESCO report talks about this kind of cyberbullying meant to belittle, humiliate, shame, to induce fear, silence, and discredit female journalists professionally, and all really, I guess, to put some doubts on the facts that you might be reporting on. Is that your experience from the kind of bullying that you've been had? It's more about trying to scare you and trying to distract people from what you're writing?
I think that there's a global culture of silencing that's going on, and I think that is very much an aspect of it. I mean, someone like Peter Ndoro, who has been reporting extensively on the EFF and the BBS connections to the BBS looting, she has been subjected to, in one instance, someone saying that, basically saying that he could see where she was in a Randburg mall. That is blatant stalking. I know that Sidi Madia, people like Lesego Tlabi, who's a commentator, but people within the space, any woman who has an opinion or expresses an opinion online, even often in relation to issues like GBV, seem to be a target. With me, I think obviously because I report very much on the legal space, judgments, court rulings, evidence. What I find fascinating is often there are these very vociferous attacks on me related to stuff that is in a court record. It's not opinions necessarily, though I do that, but it's hard factual journalism that is based on what has actually occurred in a court process. And it's so, where there may be dimensions of people saying, well, what you're saying is incorrect. All of it is kind of straight out of evidence. It's not really a question mark of my opinion. But I do think that there's a very strong dimension at which people just don't want you to do your job. They want to scare and intimidate and harass you to a point where you keep silent. And one of the biggest tragedies for us societally is that a lot of the younger journalists in our spaces are seeing what happens to people like us, and they think, I don't want to post. I don't want to post about my story, or I'm scared because what about what happens to them? Will that happen to me? And I think that's a very problematic knock-on effect of this kind of harassment.
Have you been scared at times and thought about it yourself, that is it really worth all of this?
I mean, there are times where you can't believe that people can be so cruel. And it's not so much, it doesn't, because I put in a lot of barriers. I filter everything, I mute people, I block people. But, my parents are elderly people, and my dad, when I had COVID, my dad was really scared, and he saw some of the comments, and my mom just said to me, it really upset him. And so it's not, I can build barriers in for myself, but when I see my younger sister or my family distressed, that, and my brother will not, he doesn't engage with it very, I think he just made the decision about putting his own barrier in there. But, that for me is hard, is when it starts affecting people who love you and care about you. That's difficult. For my own self, I know why I'm here. I know what I'm trying to do, and I won't stop doing my job. I absolutely refuse, because then those bullies have won, and I am not going to let that happen. And what I also take is that and I know you know this go through the same thing, when we engage with members of the public in real life, they are kind, they are supportive, they are, incredibly, generous in their support of us. So I focus on the real people and not the trolls.
Talking about real people, what I find often is that the most hateful things are posted by people who hide behind pseudonyms. They don't put up pictures of their faces, and they're quite cowardly, actually, in the way that they behave. Has that been your experience, that most of the people that attack you are actually quite scared to reveal who they are?
No, absolutely. And I mean, this is one of the arguments that I've made, is that I feel the anonymity on Twitter is part of the reason why we see the horrific abuses that we see. Is that there's no, you can literally have someone threatening to kill you, and you can report that to Twitter, but then then the person's account gets taken down, and that's it. There's no repercussions beyond that. And, there's also, it's very easy for people to create numerous bot accounts, which then embark on sort of quite profound campaigns to get, I've experienced that at one stage when I tweeted against about, police being Islamophobic during a COVID-19 raid. These very, RET-aligned group literally started tweeting Karyn Maughan was 4 every 30 seconds, predominantly from anonymous accounts that couldn't be traced. So the anonymity has allowed for widespread abuses by Twitter, and I think that it needs to deal with it. If it is genuinely committed to making social media so safe for everyone, not just women, for everyone, then it needs to deal with the anonymity aspect, because that is what fuels the abuse.
All right, so during the course of our conversation, we will be getting calls from our viewers, and we've got Nomsa on the line, who's in Johannesburg. Nomsa, thanks so much indeed for joining us. What would you like to say about this subject?
Thank you so much, Peter. I'm listening to the conversation, and thanks for having that talk. I'm a councillor in the city of Johannesburg, but of course, I'm serving the community in the township. We also facing the same bullying from the community, from the politicians. Just now, I was attacked in my house by the community because of electricity, and they were swearing at me. They were attempting to bomb my house. They attempting to burn me with the tire. For the whole week, I was in that big dilemma that I couldn't save myself.
Nomsa, do you think that if you were a man that they would treat you slightly differently?
Yes, of course.
So they're picking on you because they know that you're a woman and they perceive you as being extra vulnerable? All right, that's...
Yes.
Yeah.
I would be treated if I was a man, I would be treated differently. Definitely, it's true. Because I'm a woman, even young kids, even other women were involved. Women that, as a politician, I was fighting for them to be where they are. I was one of those people who were fighting for women to have 30% to 50% plus one.
All right. Nomsa, thanks so much indeed for coming through and sharing your story with us. Karyn, I think you've given us clues already, but typically, who are these people that are coming after you? I know that in my experiences, if I tweet something on Zimbabwe, there's going to be a flood of bots that will just start talking all sorts of nonsense. And I think that they're actually paid by certain people to harass certain people. And I wonder if that's the same for you.
No, I mean, I've had very orchestrated campaigns by certain bots. And actually, interestingly enough, these kind of organizations that do research on it actually did tracking to see what was happening and how it was happening. And, it's like regularity. Every 30 seconds, Karyn Maughan must fall, Karyn Maughan must fall. And then some of the tweets were hilarious because they were like, don't ask us why, I just retweeted. So they actually got that to trend. And then other people started reporting the trend and saying that you're harassing this person, what are you, like how, and reporting it back to Twitter, and then Twitter removed it. But there's a very constructed, concerted manipulation of how the algorithm and how Twitter works to make sure that they can basically harass you. And that's exactly what it is, Peter. It's a targeted harassment of an individual to basically silence them. And unfortunately, in your case, obviously, it's got those profoundly xenophobic elements, which have, there is a dimension of Twitter now that is profoundly Afrophobic and perpetuates a lot of like profoundly adverse, sometimes spurred on by certain right-wing elements or ideologies, perpetuates hatred towards foreign nationals in South Africa. And then you become the targeted person who are going to humiliate and undermine this human being and put out whatever false information about him to silence him, to make him withdraw, and to harass him into completely shutting down his social media presence. That's the game. Yeah. And it's very hard. I know it's hard because sometimes you read this stuff, especially when it's completely false or whatever, and you want to kind of respond to it, but that's the whole point, is that the more energy you give to these people, the more you engage with them, the more you validate what they're trying to do. And so a lot of my thing is just to report, block, mute, but not to engage with it like it's a legitimate debate, because it's not. There's a massive difference between someone who says to you, Karyn, listen, I don't know that, I see your interpretation of this or this legislation, but I think you may be wrong on this because X, Y, Z, and there's like, let's talk to each other, let's show each other respect, let's have a debate. There's a massive difference between that and, calling me a female dog, saying I must die, I must be raped, I'm white monopoly capital, I don't deserve to live, you've got to celebrate the day I die of COVID-19. There's a massive difference between those things. And, we as a journalist, we love debate, we encourage debate, we would love to have a back and forth. Let's talk about these things. But don't come at us and try and use personal information, insults, derogatory comments to effectively keep us quiet because you don't like what we say. That is not the same thing.
All right, Karyn, we're going to take a break, but we'll be back with you a little bit later on in the program to explore this a little bit more. But I don't know about you, last count, I think I've got 1,000 people blocked on my account. That's how bad that things got. But anyway, we'll continue to explore all of that coming up after the break. Stay with us. We go to Kenya. Welcome back. You're still watching Media and Society, and we continue with the conversation on cyberbullying, harassment and violence against female journalists online. Remember, you can be part of this conversation by calling us on Johannesburg 011 714 6841 or 6842. That number again, Johannesburg 011 714 6841 or 6842. And you can also message us on social media at SABC _MNS, hashtag SABC Media and Society. We really look forward to you being part of this conversation. Now, before the break, we were taking a look at the situation here in South Africa as we were talking to Karyn Maughan. We'll be chatting to her again in the program. But right now we go to East Africa to get a sense of the challenges that women in the media are facing in Kenya. And joining us now from Nairobi is renowned broadcaster and media personality Joyce Gituro. Thank you so much indeed for joining us. Welcome to the program. Really happy to meet you and talk to you. I know you're big news in Kenya.
Thank you. Yeah, I agree with you. I'm a renowned media journalist in Kenya, and I've been in the industry for the last 20 years, and I have the experience. Yeah. And I thank God.
All right. So, Joyce, tell me about some of the challenges that female journalists, female media personalities face online now, more and more that we have social media as a vehicle for people to cyber attack and cyber bully?
I tell you what, the ladies in media here in Kenya, they suffer a lot. Some in silence, some they speak out. One of the things that's used to bully them on social media is, of course, their gender. There's also the issue of age. There's the issue of marital status and status in the society. I personally suffered a lot in 2018 when I changed careers, when I moved from one media house to another. And it became such a huge thing that I didn't expect. I was bullied by the people, not actually the people, but the fans from the media house I was moving to. And again, I was bullied by the fans of the media house I was joining. I felt lost. They made me feel like we co-own my career, which I didn't understand. And they kept telling me, you're moving because you're looking for money, you're not loyal to your fans, what's wrong with you, why are you moving? And in this move, we were like 5 people. Apparently, me and another lady, we were really harassed on media. While they were congratulating the men we moved with. So there's that issue of the gender thing, just looking at us as women. And it really, really got me thinking. The next issue that is usually used here in Kenya is your age. You see, a person like me, in my 40s, when you post something, the issue of age will be pushed in. You're too old to be on social media. What are you doing on social media? Yes, a man older than me is congratulated when they post whatever they post, whether it's about the family, their careers, anything, social things. It's not perceived in the same way. Unfortunately, you'll be shocked to learn that some of our fellow women are the ones who are doing this. Like I used to check on the comments. Some of them are pseudo accounts. You never know. But I would look at the comments and realize almost 80% of the people who are bullying me were women, and I couldn't understand why. I've never understood why we are our own enemies. I'm yet to understand that.
Joyce, has some of it been quite threatening? Beyond saying that you are being disloyal, have they threatened harm to you or maybe even your family?
Yes, they pulled my daughter and my marital papers into this. And because my daughter is old enough, she's also on Facebook. She received a few messages in her inbox telling her, you better tell your mom to stop this thing. And she's not actively, and she was not actively involved in what I was doing, but she was pulled into it. And innocently, she started engaging them. And it really, really affected her. I had to talk to her, counsel her, tell her to go it easy. But also, even for me, one time, I left the office and I sat down and I wondered why people would just hate on you just because you've made a career move. It's a career growth. I was moving from managing one brand, one radio station, to managing 6 brands, and I couldn't understand how people were not seeing what I was seeing. But with time, I've learned to develop a thick skin. Sorry, I've learned to develop a thick skin, and I don't take it personally, and I just assume these are idle people, if I may put it that way. Just trying to bring you down.
Do you think that this also has a lot to do with the norms of society, where women are supposed to have a certain place and men are supposed to be the head of the household and women must obey men, that kind of thing? Does that then translate into online behavior, the way that people speak to women online, particularly women in the media?
Oh, yes. Here in Kenya, I can say that contributes a lot. I'll tell you, last year, I went down to the coastal town of Mombasa, and I dressed in a how do I put it? I don't even know how to explain. My shoulders were a bit bare, and not that I was naked, but all the comments I got were like, "You're a woman at your age, why are you behaving like this?" And a fellow man in the coastal town, even in a bare chest, they congratulated. But for you as a woman, you are judged based on the cultural beliefs. So, yes, people still believe as a woman, there's a way, specific way you're supposed to behave, but that doesn't apply when it comes to finances and responsibilities. So, as a woman, you're supposed to equally contribute for the finances and upkeep of the house, but when it comes to the social norms, we go against them. Because as a woman, if you're going to judge me fully. But here in Kenya, I see a lot of that a woman is supposed to contribute and to take care of the family and give out your money maybe to your husband. Yeah. But when it comes to other things, you are not supposed to behave in a particular way. So there's a bit of confusion because we want the woman to remain in the cultural norms when it comes to behavior, but when it comes to responsibilities, you want the woman to be an upmarket woman, a developed woman. So a bit confusing for us and for me in particular.
Do you find yourself being wary sometimes and nervous when you go online? I know that you have a lot of followers on social media, that some of the comments can be quite draining, quite exhausting, and quite personal.
Yes, last year, 2019, late 2019, I opened up a YouTube channel and I started interviewing people. And every time I would do an interview and post it, the comments were all about me, not even the person. It got so personal. Some people, there was a time I was interviewing a divorced guy, and I'm also a single woman. I'm divorced. And I was asking him questions regarding how he's planning to move on, how he has made it as a single father. And most comments that came were like, "Why are you interviewing the guy for yourself? It's like you really want this guy." And you sit down and ask yourself something, because sometimes they talk about the posture or the way you're looking at that guy when you're doing the interview. It's like you really need him. Or remove your hands. They've never, what I noticed was they never commented on the posture of my interviewee, but they will always tell me, "Oh, your posture, oh, the way you're looking at that person." But when I'm interviewing a lady, if the interview is between me and a lady, they'll discuss the topic. When the interview is between me and a man, they will talk about my posture, my eyes, the kind of questions I ask, how interested I am in the man, And I got used to this, and I just decided, what? No matter what they say, because this is my interest and this is what I want to do, I'll continue doing. You ignore them, but ultimately, I tell you the truth. Ultimately, at some point, it gets into you, and in your own time, you start wondering, really, what is it? What is it about my posture? What is it about the subject matter? What is it? Is everything all about me? When you go and try watch other interviews done by men, sometimes interviewing the same person, and you look at the compliments or the comments, they are quite different. Very different from the very comments you get interviewing the same person.
Tell me, which platform do you find most toxic in terms of negative commentary, negative and attacks actually. For me here in South Africa, I find Twitter to be the most toxic, more than the other platforms. What's the situation in Kenya?
I'll tell you, for me as an individual, or you think you want me to answer it as in,
let's get your let's start with let's start with your experience, and then you can talk about Kenya in general.
Okay. My own experience, the biggest audience of haters that I've gotten is on YouTube, my YouTube channel, followed by Facebook, followed by Instagram, and finally Twitter. For me, my followers on Twitter are around 53,600. I find them very sober. I have 23,000 followers on YouTube, the most toxic. I have about 23 again on Facebook. Toxic also, but Instagram, quite sober, but the best are the ones on Twitter. Twitter, I think I engage with a good, I can tell you that intellectually they're very thin.
Okay, you know what, we're going to leave it there.
In Kenya,
in Kenya, generally?
Generally in Kenya, the trend is almost the same. Facebook, most toxic, and then Twitter.
That's interesting.
But you find most audience on Instagram, quite sober.
All right.
And YouTube, people deal with you individually. It's a contextual thing on YouTube.
Joyce, thank you so much indeed for joining us. It's been a pleasure to meet you. Asante sana, kwaheri. All right, that's a pretty famous woman in Kenya. She's been a broadcaster, radio, and got a couple of YouTube channels now running, sharing her experience in terms of media and cyberbullying and what people say to women in particular as opposed to men online. All right, so we're going to continue with this conversation, and don't forget you can be part of the show calling us on 011 714 6841 or 6842, and also our Twitter handle at SABC_MNS, hashtag SABC Media and Society. There's more coming up. Stay with us. Welcome back. You're watching Media and Society, and we continue with our conversation on cyberbullying, harassment and violence against female journalists. And we want to hear from you as well, so please give us a call and message us on social media. But we're talking to Karyn Maughan. She's back now on the line. And Karyn, I want to use the word cyber violence because, you know, it's almost, when we use the word harassment, it's almost like a euphemism. I wonder if it does feel like violence to you sometimes, even though it's virtual.
Well, I think the thing is that words have power, and that sometimes when people are really vicious about, for example, you know, with females, a lot of the times that, you know, people express threats towards us, it's very much in terms of sexual violence. Mm-hmm. So it's like, you deserve to be raped, you deserve, I mean, one of the most searing ones that I got was raped and necklaced. So it's the sexual dimension of it, this idea of being forced to, you know, to endure sexual violence as a consequence of your work. Those words are horrifically, you know, they're horrifically violating. I mean, obviously, you know, the fact that someone feels emboldened to express the wish that you go through an experience like that speaks to a level of misogyny and sexism in our society that is truly horrendous. And you know, oftentimes you'll see people make comments like that, and they get support and light by other people. That being said, I've always been really appreciative of people within the Twitter space who I've seen consistently sticking up for me, consistently saying this is not acceptable, reporting, blocking, taking the fight on, and just basically saying we don't accept this kind of behavior. And I think that's also very important.
Do you think society should pay more attention to cyberbullying, particularly against women? I mean, we are sort of ascribed now to the hashtag #MeToo movement. We talk about gender-based violence. But for some reason, when it comes to online, there doesn't seem to be the same kind of energy.
Well, I think the thing is that people will say to you, well, you're in the public space. This is a part of life that you have to accept. Do you want to, report or have views on political figures and criticize them? Then we should be able to, criticize you. You should be able to face the kind of same level of scrutiny. I absolutely agree with that. But this is not about scrutiny. It's not about criticism. It's not about debate. It's literally about silencing. And that's the problem for the broader society, is that we live in a misogynist society that's constantly telling women that you are less than, you should earn less. If you suffer violence or sexual violence, now you have some role to play in it. You are to blame. It's our society is fundamentally sexist and misogynist. So if women's voices in that space are silent, it's damaging to the whole society. And that's why I think that, socially, more and more, the more this bullying continues and the more women are silenced in the spaces, the more damaging it is to us socially. And I think that absolutely people need to stick up and say, you know what, this isn't acceptable. And we're going to, the people that perpetuate this bullying and carry on in this way, we are going to make sure that they're held accountable for what they're doing. And they also are made to answer for their harassment and intimidation of everyone on the social media space that they target.
All right. And also, I think we mentioned it at the beginning, but I get a sense that a lot of our political leaders ought to be a bit more active in terms of turning down the temperature, turning down some of these voices, because they often speak in their name, don't they?
Absolutely. And I mean, some of the worst kind of social media abuse that I've endured has been exactly from the leadership of a political party. And one stage, I think Julius Malema, in response to my tweets, was just tweeting back the word medication, which, as a consequence, I've now had a number of people who claim to be aligned to the EFF perpetuating this narrative that I am mentally ill, which is problematic on a number of levels, because I think that using alleged mental illness as a mechanism for silencing people is deeply problematic because of the levels of mental illness we have in our society. And I don't want to get involved in a debate where I say, well, actually I'm not on psychiatric medication, I'm not mentally ill, because I think that feeds into that exact thing of saying there's something wrong with mental illness. And I don't want to be part of perpetuating that kind of narrative. But for him, in his position, to be part of that and to say things like that, in response to my reporting and my journalism, is deeply problematic. And this is a party who, when our colleague Slee from the NC was reporting on the recent demonstrations at Wits, etc., she was actively targeted as a female in both her physically targeted in her job and on social media. And the party has not come out and said, listen, this isn't acceptable. So for me that's extremely problematic. You can't, we've seen this with Donald Trump and the media in America. If you don't like the message, attacking the messenger is not the way to go about putting your views across. We are a democracy. We are a constitutional democracy. People have freedom of expression, yes. But freedom of expression means, let me counter you with arguments, let me counter you with facts, let me have a debate with you, not let me imply that you're mentally ill, threaten you with rape or harass you through putting out, in one instance, your personal details on the internet so that people will phone you and harass you, which is what, of course, happened to our colleague Karyn Maughan, the late Karyn Maughan. That is not acceptable, and I think we need to draw a line in the sand.
Yeah, you know what? Just before we say goodbye, there's a couple of tweets that have come through on the program. Let's just read a couple of those. One from Peter Tony Sechel, who says, those who hurl threats expose themselves as lacking in grey matter. Put bluntly, they are brainless idiots. Don't get intimidated by them, Karyn. I salute you. And another tweet from is it Polo Mokele? Says, I have a story to tell. Time for SABC Media and Society. Fire favorite Sunday show. Thanks so much indeed. Karyn Maughan, thank you very, very much indeed for joining us and sharing your story with us. And I think it is representative of a lot of, sadly, journalists in the media, particularly women. But thank you so much for joining us.
And thank you for having me. And also, I know you get a lot of this as well. Don't let it get to you. Just keep being as good as you are and focusing on doing your job, because there are many people, myself included, who really appreciate you for that. And we are by far in the majority.
Karyn, thank you so, so much. Take care.
Thank you. Bye. All
right, that's a specialist legal reporter and author. She's written a few books. Karyn Maughan there, sharing her story with us. Now, Red Live is a YouTube entertainment news channel that was founded by Malusi Mnisi in 2016. Now, the former software developer has amassed close to 90,000 subscribers on his channel. Mnisi script writes, produces and reports on content found on the channel. Our producer, Wavela Jongilanga, sat down with Mnisi to find out more about this quite a significant channel.
The Red Live YouTube channel is basically about entertainment news here in South Africa. I've dabbled a bit in politics. I'll be honest, I don't have that much of an interest, but mostly celebrity entertainment news here in South Africa.
Talk to me about the kind of stories that go onto your YouTube channel. What goes into the selection process to feature on your YouTube channel?
Obviously, it was just stories that I personally found interesting. But since the community of Red Live has grown, I actually do get requests. People send me stories via inboxes I'm mostly on Twitter. Sometimes I check my Instagram. So I get sent these stories, or someone just says, hey, Red Live, can you check out the story and do a video about it? Can you break it down for us? I also get some stories from trends on Twitter. Same thing, people would tell me that, hey, Red Live, so-and-so is trending. We can't find out why they're trending for. Can you find out for us and do a video about it? Because most of the time on these trends, you get people advertising their stuff. So it's hard to actually get to the bottom of the story. So I suppose the people that watch Red Live, they count on me to get to the bottom of the trend.
Also noticed that quite a bit of production goes into the stories that you put out on your YouTube channel. Who does the production of these stories? Or is it just primarily you?
Really me, to be honest with you. That is the part that I actually do enjoy, the editing of the video and the kind of putting the audio and the clips together and syncing them up and getting one final product at the end of the export. So that is what I personally have a passion about. It's actually creating the video itself. So that is where I take the most care, and I make sure that I do my best job in the actual final product, the production of the video. So the stories themselves, I will be honest, some stories that I get requests for to do, I don't really have that much of an interest, but I will do it. The part where I get the big smile on my face is when I'm there, kind of putting the videos together.
So let's now take it all the way back. Tell me how you started your channel. What prompted you to start your YouTube channel?
Definitely, we're going to have to go all the way back, but it's a very short story. So I was working for a company that does websites, and we got approached by a church wanted to include YouTube videos on their website. So at the time, I had never done something of that nature. So I created a YouTube channel, uploaded a clip with me and my colleagues just talking in the office. And then I did a dummy website to check if I could link that stuff. And then it worked. And a year later, okay, I did the website for the client. Client's happy. The website's still live to this day. And a year later, I get an email from YouTube. So I hadn't uploaded another video. Up until about a year later, I get an email. They're telling me to confirm and verify my address and my banking details because my video has made money. And that's where I was like, oh, so you can get paid for up videos on YouTube. So that's where it started. So I'd say it started in 2016. That's when I started uploading videos on a weekly basis. I'd do it on the weekend when I wasn't at work.
And talk to me about challenges that you face with the content that you're putting out right now on your YouTube channel.
Challenges that you face with the content, I would say it's mostly whenever it's negative content. You know, when it's negative content, people come with the impression that you might have an agenda against a specific someone. I have gotten inboxes from celebrities who have about and accusations of such that perhaps my story wasn't straight. And I want to say this: I do not make up news. So my story, my channel, we do not break the news. I just make videos on what has already been reported. So if it's inaccurate, state in the video where I got this particular talking about. So I do get that a bit, people saying that whatever I'm talking about is inaccurate. Where do I get my facts from? And I'd be like, just listen to the video. I tell you exactly where I got it from. So those are the challenges when it comes to the topics.
What are some of the challenges that you face running a YouTube channel?
One of the biggest challenge that I've actually ever faced running the channel was I got hacked when I was approaching 100,000 subscribers. I was at about 90,000 subscribers. I got an email saying that, congratulations, you're about to get your 100,000 subscriber plaque. Click here to make sure it gets sent to the correct address. And unfortunately for me, it was a spam email, and they hacked my account from there. They hacked the whole channel. And the weird thing, I ended up getting back the channel after a whole year. I started another channel in the meantime, which is why I've got two channels now that are both on 90,000 subscribers. But when I got the channel back, what I found out was that the person that hacked it, they didn't upload any videos. And what they did was they just made the whole channel private. So they weren't even earning money from the channel. So I don't understand why someone would have hacked me like that. I managed to find out a couple of details from YouTube themselves. Apparently, the hack originated in France. So it's not like a South African did it. And at the end of the day, that one was mostly my fault. I'm the one who clicked on an email because I was a little bit overzealous and a little bit too excited about the prospect of getting that plaque. But either way, I'm still going to get that plaque. I'm going to get two now.
So have you been able to put precautionary measures to ensure that you don't run into something similar like this?
I suppose especially when it comes to being hacked like that, the most you could do now is enable two-way verification. At the time when I got hacked, that wasn't actually even a thing on YouTube. So they've introduced that. So there's two-way verification, and also just whatever you're getting comes from the actual source. Double check. Don't just click on links, especially if the link asks you to put in your password and your username. That is the biggest red flag, especially as a YouTuber. YouTube has never ever asked me for a password in the email. So obviously, at the time I didn't know better, but now we do know, and YouTube does sort of inform us and tell us that just be on the lookout for these things. So those are the precautions that you could take. Don't click on links you don't know, and just don't ever give your password to anyone.
Have you been able to monetize the platform?
Yes, I have. Both channels are monetized, and it's mostly from the views that I get from the videos themselves. There's ads at the beginning and end, and that's how you basically make the money from the videos themselves.
Take me through some of the plans that you have in place for this channel. Where would you like to see it? Year or so?
And is actually we are headed towards the 100,000 subscribers plaque. That's what I'm currently focused on. I'm trying to get 100,000 subscribers. I've got 10,000 at 90,000, so I've got about 10,000 to get to that particular milestone. From there, I was actually thinking of actually starting my own news type of website, having doing actual news and getting a website. So beyond YouTube, I want to go into perhaps media a bit, not obviously I'm going to hire people because I can't be doing the videos and also writing articles for the website. But those are sort of like long-term, sort of mid-term type of goals, is to get a website, get stories out there, have my own stories, not just rely on stories that, are already out there.
90,000 subscribers. My goodness, I tell you, young people are doing amazing things, aren't they? All right, well, that's how we come to the end of today's edition of Media and Society. Thanks very much indeed for watching the show, and we look forward to seeing you at the same time next week for more of the same. Have a great week, everybody. Do all the protocols. COVID is still with us. Get vaccinated, and above all, please wear a mask. Good night.